The Galactic Council's newest recruit shuffled through the pristine corridors of Station Omega-7, his worn boots making soft squeaks against the polished metal floor. Marcus Chen kept his eyes down, clipboard clutched against his chest, as he made his way past towering Krillian warriors and sleek Zephyrian diplomats. None of them spared him a second glance. At barely 5 feet 6 inches tall, with unremarkable brown hair and clothes that seemed perpetually wrinkled, Marcus had mastered the art of invisibility long before humanity joined the galactic community. The other species saw him exactly as they expected to see a human, weak, fragile, and utterly forgettable. "Move aside, little mammal," growled Commander Thexkar, a massive Bruthan whose scaled hide gleamed under the artificial lighting. The alien's 4 arms gestured dismissively as he strode past, nearly knocking Marcus into the wall. His entourage of lesser Bruthans followed, their clawed feet clicking against the floor in perfect synchronization. Marcus stumbled slightly but said nothing, merely adjusting his glasses and continuing on his way. Behind him, he heard the familiar sound of alien laughter echoing down the corridor. "Did you see how it cowered?" One of the Bruthans chuckled to another. "These humans are even weaker than the report suggested." "I still cannot believe the Council granted them membership," replied a third voice, this one belonging to a Vextari whose crystalline features caught the light as she spoke. "What could such pitiful creatures possibly contribute to our alliance?" Marcus reached his destination. A small maintenance office tucked away in the station's lower levels. The door slid open with a barely audible whisper, revealing a cramped space filled with cleaning supplies and repair equipment. To any casual observer, it was exactly what it appeared to be, the workspace of a humble janitor. He set down his clipboard and moved to a seemingly ordinary supply cabinet in the corner. His fingers traced a specific pattern along the metal surface, and a hidden panel slid away to reveal an array of sophisticated equipment that would have made the galaxy's best intelligence agencies envious. The holographic display flickered to life, showing detailed schematics of Station Omega-7. Red dots marked the locations of every significant individual currently aboard, from the highest-ranking council members to the lowliest support staff. Marcus's unremarkable appearance had allowed him to plant monitoring devices throughout the station over the past 6 months, and now he had a complete picture of everyone's movements and activities. His fingers danced across the controls, pulling up communication logs, security feeds, and classified documents that should have been impossible to access. The other species had been so busy dismissing humanity as irrelevant that they had never bothered to properly secure their networks against human intrusion. A soft chime indicated an incoming message through his hidden communication array. Marcus activated the secure channel, and Admiral Sarah Chen's face appeared on the screen. Despite sharing a surname, they were not related, though their similar understated appearances had helped maintain Marcus's cover. "Report, Agent Chen," the Admiral said, her voice crisp and professional. "The Bruthan hegemony is planning to attack the Centauri colonies," Marcus replied without preamble. "I've intercepted their battle plans and troop movements. They intend to strike in 72 hours using the peace negotiations as cover." Admiral Chen's expression remained neutral, but Marcus caught the slight tightening around her eyes that indicated her anger. "Evidence?" Marcus transmitted the files he had gathered, watching as the Admiral's face grew increasingly grim. The Bruthan plans were extensive and brutal, calling for the complete subjugation of human colonies and the enslavement of any survivors. "They're also spreading propaganda among the other species," Marcus continued, "claiming that humanity is planning to poison their water supplies during the upcoming trade summit. It's completely false, but several species are beginning to believe it." "Of course they are," Admiral Chen muttered. "Anything else?" "Commander Thexkar has been meeting secretly with Zephyrian separatists. They're planning to frame humanity for an attack on the Zephyrian homeworld's cultural centers. The goal is to turn every species in the Council against us." The Admiral was quiet for a long moment, processing the information. When she spoke again, her voice carried a weight that Marcus recognized from their training days on Earth. "Marcus, you've done excellent work, but your cover may be compromised soon. There's been chatter about conducting security sweeps of all human personnel." "I can handle it," Marcus replied, already formulating contingency plans in his mind. "I know you can, but we may need to accelerate our timeline. The Reaper protocol is ready for activation if necessary." Marcus felt a familiar chill run down his spine at the mention of the protocol. It was humanity's ultimate insurance policy, developed in secret during their early days in the Galactic community. While other species had dismissed human technology as primitive, Earth's greatest minds had been working on something that would change the balance of power forever. "I understand, Admiral. Should I begin preparations?" "Not yet. Continue gathering intelligence, but be ready to move at a moment's notice. And Marcus, remember what we're fighting for." The transmission ended, leaving Marcus alone in his small sanctuary. He leaned back in his chair, allowing himself a moment of reflection. For 6 months, he had endured the mockery, the casual dismissal, and the outright hostility of the galaxy's most powerful species. They saw him as nothing more than a maintenance worker, too insignificant to merit their attention. They had no idea that they were staring death in the face every time they walked past him. Marcus returned to his work, pulling up the latest intelligence reports. The Krillian Empire was mobilizing their war fleets, ostensibly for training exercises, but actually positioning themselves for a coordinated strike against human space. The Vextari Collective was sabotaging human trade routes, making it appear as though human ships were simply unreliable. And the Zephyrian Republic was spreading rumors that humans carried diseases that could devastate alien populations. Each piece of evidence painted a clearer picture of the galaxy's intentions toward humanity. The other species had decided that humans were a threat that needed to be eliminated, not through open warfare, but through careful manipulation and coordinated persecution. They believed that humanity was too weak to fight back, too primitive to understand what was happening, and too naive to take preemptive action. They had made the same mistake that many others throughout history had made when underestimating humans. Marcus spent the next several hours updating his intelligence files and preparing his equipment for potential extraction. The hidden compartment in his office contained enough firepower to level half the station, but violence was always the last resort. Information was his primary weapon, and he wielded it with the precision of a master craftsman. A soft knock at his office door interrupted his work. Marcus quickly secured his equipment and activated the hidden panel's camouflage before opening the door to find a young Althari courier holding a data pad. "Maintenance request," the alien said, his tone suggesting that he found the very idea of speaking to a human distasteful. "Waste recycling unit on Deck 7 is malfunctioning." Marcus nodded and took the data pad, playing his role perfectly. "I'll get right on it," he said, his voice carrying just the right amount of submissive eagerness. The courier left without another word, and Marcus examined the request. It was legitimate, but the timing was interesting. Deck 7 housed several high-security conference rooms where the most sensitive negotiations took place. A maintenance visit would give him access to areas that were normally off-limits. He gathered his cleaning supplies and maintenance tools, concealing several sophisticated surveillance devices among the ordinary equipment. As he made his way through the station's corridors, he passed the same aliens who had mocked him earlier. They didn't even acknowledge his presence. Commander Thexkar was deep in conversation with a group of Zephyrian officials near the lift entrance. Marcus caught fragments of their discussion as he waited for the elevator. "The humans suspect nothing," Thexkar was saying. "Their primitive intelligence gathering relies on obvious methods that we can easily detect and counter." "What of their military capabilities?" asked one of the Zephyrians, her crystalline features reflecting concern. Laughable, Thexkar replied with obvious disdain. Their weapons are barely more advanced than chemical projectiles, and their ships are slow and cumbersome. When we strike, they will be helpless to defend themselves. The elevator arrived, and Marcus stepped inside as the aliens continued their conversation. As the doors closed, he heard Thexkar make a comment that would prove to be prophetic. The greatest mistake the humans made was revealing their true nature too early. They should have remained in the shadows where they belong. Marcus smiled to himself as the elevator carried him upward. The galaxy was about to learn that humans had never left the shadows at all. They had simply become very good at hiding in them. On Deck 7, he began his maintenance work while simultaneously deploying his surveillance equipment. The recycling unit repair was simple enough, but it gave him the perfect cover to install monitoring devices in locations that would have been impossible to access otherwise. As he worked, Marcus listened to conversations from nearby conference rooms through his concealed equipment. The level of coordination among the various species was impressive and terrifying. They had been planning humanity's downfall for months, possibly years, and they had done it all while treating humans like insignificant pests. But their greatest mistake was assuming that insignificant pests couldn't bite back. Marcus finished his work and returned to his office, his mind already formulating plans for the intelligence he had gathered. The galaxy thought it knew what humans were capable of, but they were about to discover that they had vastly underestimated their newest members. The quiet, unnoticed janitor they mocked every day was about to become their worst nightmare. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened at 0800 station time, though Marcus had been monitoring the preliminary discussions since before dawn. Hidden in his maintenance closet, surrounded by the comforting hum of cleaning equipment, he watched through a dozen different camera feeds as the galaxy's most powerful beings gathered to discuss humanity's fate. Council Chamber Alpha was a magnificent space designed to accommodate the diverse physiology of its members. Crystalline Vextari sat beside hulking Bruthan warriors, while elegant Zephyrians shared space with the insectoid hive mothers of the Sectar Collective. At the center of it all sat Chancellor Veltar, an ancient Althari whose species had founded the Council over 1,000 years ago. Marcus adjusted his hidden cameras and settled in to watch the proceedings. On paper, this was supposed to be a routine review of humanity's membership status. In reality, it was a carefully orchestrated trial with a predetermined verdict. "Honored delegates," Chancellor Veltar began, his melodious voice carrying easily through the chamber's acoustics. "We gather today to address growing concerns about our newest members and their compatibility with galactic civilization." Commander Thexkar rose from his seat, his forearms spread in a gesture of righteous indignation. "Chancellor, the evidence speaks for itself. These humans have proven themselves to be deceptive, aggressive, and fundamentally untrustworthy." "Please present your evidence, Commander," Veltar replied, though his tone suggested he already knew what would be revealed. Thexkar activated a holographic display that showed what appeared to be classified human military documents. Marcus recognized them immediately as sophisticated forgeries, but they were convincing enough to fool anyone who didn't know what to look for. These files, obtained through legitimate intelligence gathering, reveal that humanity has been planning attacks on civilian targets throughout the galaxy, Thexkar declared. They speak of something called Reaper Protocol, clearly a reference to mass destruction. Murmurs of concern rippled through the chamber. Marcus watched as delegates who had been neutral toward humanity began to show signs of alarm. The Bruthans had done their work well, playing on the natural suspicions that many species harbored toward the mysterious newcomers. "Furthermore," Thexkar continued, "we have evidence that human vessels have been conducting unauthorized surveillance of our shipping lanes and military installations. Their so-called trade missions are nothing more than spying operations. This accusation had more truth to it than Marcus would have preferred. Humanity had indeed been conducting intelligence-gathering operations, but only because they had detected the growing hostility toward their species. Unfortunately, explaining the defensive nature of their actions would require revealing capabilities that Earth was not ready to acknowledge. Delegate Zix Ara of the Vextari Collective stood next, her crystalline form refracting the chamber's lights into dazzling patterns. The humans have also introduced biological contaminants into several station environments, she announced. Our medical teams have detected traces of unknown microorganisms in areas where humans have been present. Marcus almost laughed at this accusation. The contaminants were simply normal human bacteria and skin cells, completely harmless to any species that had evolved in a universe full of diverse life forms. But the Vextari were masters of making the ordinary sound sinister. One by one, the delegates presented their cases against humanity. Each accusation was carefully crafted to sound damning while being difficult to disprove without revealing information that Earth wanted to keep secret. The pattern was clear. The galaxy had already decided to remove humanity from the Council and were now going through the motions of justifying their decision. As the testimony continued, Marcus received an encrypted message through his hidden communication system. Admiral Chen's face appeared on his concealed screen, her expression grim. "Marcus, we've detected massive fleet movements throughout the galaxy," she reported. "Every major species is positioning their forces for what appears to be a coordinated strike on human colonies. The attack will begin the moment the Council votes to expel us." "Timeline?" Marcus asked quietly, his fingers already moving to activate various systems throughout his hidden network. 6 hours, maybe less. They're using the Council session as cover while their fleets move into position. Marcus felt a familiar calm settle over him as his training took hold. This was the moment they had prepared for, the scenario that had been planned and rehearsed countless times in the secret facilities on Earth and Mars. "Admiral, recommend immediate activation of Reaper Protocol," he said, his voice steady despite the magnitude of what he was suggesting. "Are you certain? Once we activate it, there's no going back. The galaxy will see us as we truly are." Marcus watched the Council chamber where delegate after delegate continued to present fabricated evidence against his species. These beings had already decided to commit genocide against humanity based on lies and prejudice. They deserved to see exactly what they were trying to eliminate. "I'm certain," he replied. "Humanity tried to join this galaxy peacefully. If they want to see us as monsters, then perhaps it's time to show them real monsters." Admiral Chen nodded grimly. "Reaper Protocol is authorized. God help us all." The transmission ended, leaving Marcus alone with his preparations. He activated hidden systems throughout Station Omega-7, devices that had been carefully placed over months of seemingly innocent maintenance work. Each one was undetectable by conventional sensors and would remain dormant until activated. In the Council chamber, Chancellor Veltar was calling for the final vote. "All those in favor of expelling humanity from the Galactic Council and authorizing defensive action against human aggression." Marcus watched as every single delegate raised their hands or manipulated their voting devices. The vote was unanimous. Humanity was officially expelled from the galactic community and marked as a hostile species. As the delegates congratulated themselves on their decisive action, Marcus began implementing the first phase of Reaper Protocol. Hidden transmitters throughout the station activated, sending coded signals to human ships that had been positioned at the edge of every major star system in the galaxy. These ships were not the slow, primitive vessels that the galaxy expected. They were products of humanity's greatest secret. While other species had dismissed human technology as inferior, Earth scientists had been developing something unprecedented: They had cracked the fundamental code of space-time itself, creating vessels that could move faster than light without using any method known to galactic science. The first ships appeared on long-range sensors exactly 17 minutes after the vote. Massive angular vessels that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it emerged from hyperspace jumps that should have been impossible. They moved with a grace and speed that defied everything the galaxy thought they knew about physics. Alarms began blaring throughout Station Omega-7 as the tactical officers recognized that they were looking at a military force unlike anything they had ever encountered. The human ships numbered in the thousands, and they were positioned to strike at every major installation and fleet concentration simultaneously. In the council chamber, panic was beginning to set in. Chancellor Veltar was receiving frantic reports from across the galaxy as human forces revealed themselves in every star system. The scope of the operation was staggering. Humanity had somehow deployed a massive military force without anyone detecting it. Marcus allowed himself a small smile as he watched the delegates' confusion and growing fear. For months they had mocked the quiet human janitor who cleaned their floors and emptied their waste receptacles. They had seen him as beneath their notice, too insignificant to warrant their attention. They were about to learn that the most dangerous humans were the ones you never saw coming. He activated the second phase of Reaper Protocol, and suddenly every electronic system on the station began displaying the same message. Reaper Online. Humanity's patience has ended. The message was accompanied by a holographic projection that appeared in the center of the council chamber. It showed Admiral Chen standing on the bridge of a ship that was clearly far more advanced than anything the galaxy possessed. "Members of the former Galactic Council," she began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's communication system. "You have voted to declare war on humanity based on fabricated evidence and prejudicial assumptions. You have mobilized your fleets to attack innocent human colonies. You have chosen to see us as a threat that must be eliminated." She paused, allowing her words to sink in before continuing. "You were correct about one thing. We are a threat, but not the primitive, helpless threat you imagined. You see, while you were busy dismissing us as inferior, we were learning. We were watching, and we were preparing for the day when your true intentions became clear." In his maintenance closet, Marcus activated the final monitoring systems he had installed. Every conversation, every secret meeting, every classified communication from the past 6 months began broadcasting throughout the station. The delegates watched in horror as their own words condemned them, revealing the depth and scope of their conspiracy against humanity. "You wanted to see humanity's true nature," Admiral Chen continued. "You wanted to know what we were capable of when pushed to our limits. Congratulations. You're about to find out." The holographic projection changed to show tactical displays from across the galaxy. Human forces had not only appeared in every major system, but had achieved tactical superiority in each one. Galactic fleets that had been preparing to attack human colonies found themselves surrounded and outgunned by ships that defied every known law of physics and engineering. Commander Thexkar rose from his seat, his earlier confidence replaced by barely controlled panic. "This is impossible. Human technology is primitive. Their ships are slow and weak." Admiral Chen's image turned to focus on him specifically. "Commander Thexkar, you have 30 seconds to order your forces to stand down and return to their home systems. If you refuse, we will demonstrate exactly how primitive our technology really is." Thexkar's response was predictable. "The Bruthan hegemony does not bow to threats from inferior species. All units, engage the human vessels." Marcus watched the tactical displays as Bruthan warships opened fire on the nearest human vessels. The alien weapons, powerful enough to shatter mountains, struck the human ships and simply stopped. Energy shields that operated on principles the galaxy didn't understand absorbed the attacks without even flickering. The human response was swift and decisive. Weapons that fired concentrated gravity waves reached out across impossible distances, crushing Bruthan ships like insects. The massive warships that had been the pride of the hegemony simply imploded, their hulks drifting in space as testament to humanity's technological superiority. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out as other species tested humanity's resolve. Each attack was met with overwhelming retaliation that left no doubt about the balance of power. The humans had not just achieved technological superiority, they had surpassed every other species by centuries of development. In the council chamber, the delegates sat in stunned silence as they watched their fleets being systematically dismantled. The humans weren't even using their full capabilities, Marcus realized. They were demonstrating their power while still offering the possibility of surrender. Chancellor Veltar finally found his voice. "How?" he asked, the single word carrying the weight of the galaxy's confusion. "How did you achieve such advancement without our knowledge?" Admiral Chen's expression softened slightly, though her tone remained firm. "Because you never bothered to look. You saw what you expected to see, a primitive species that could be dismissed and eventually eliminated. You never considered that we might be deliberately hiding our true capabilities." She gestured toward something off-screen, and the holographic display changed to show historical footage from Earth. The delegates watched in growing amazement as human civilization revealed its hidden depths. Underground cities that had been developing advanced technology for decades, space installations that had been disguised as simple research stations, and military forces that had been training for galactic warfare while pretending to struggle with basic spaceflight. "Every time you mocked us, we learned something new about your weaknesses," Admiral Chen continued. "Every casual dismissal taught us how to remain invisible. Every demonstration of your superior technology showed us what we needed to surpass." Marcus felt a surge of pride as he watched the delegates begin to understand the scope of humanity's deception. They had believed themselves to be the masters of galactic civilization, but they had been outmaneuvered by a species they considered primitive. The quiet, unnoticed janitor had been reporting their every move to a species that was already planning 10 steps ahead. The silence in Council Chamber Alpha stretched for long minutes as the delegates processed what they had witnessed. Their mighty fleets were either destroyed or in full retreat, their military supremacy shattered by a species they had planned to eliminate as a minor inconvenience. Marcus watched from his hidden sanctuary as Chancellor Veltar struggled to maintain his composure. The ancient Althari had witnessed the rise and fall of a dozen galactic civilizations, but never had he seen such a complete reversal of power in so short a time. "Admiral Chen," Veltar finally spoke, his melodious voice now carrying undertones of desperate diplomacy. "Perhaps we can find a peaceful resolution to this misunderstanding. The Council was misinformed about humanity's intentions." Admiral Chen's holographic image regarded the Chancellor with an expression that might have been amusement, if not for the deadly seriousness of the situation. "Misunderstanding? Chancellor, we have complete recordings of every meeting. Every secret communication, every planning session for what you called the human solution. There was no misunderstanding. The tactical displays updated in real time, showing the current status of galactic forces. The numbers told a devastating story. Over 70% of the galaxy's combined military strength had been neutralized in less than 2 hours. The remaining ships were either fleeing to their home systems or requesting permission to surrender. Marcus activated another phase of Reaper Protocol, and suddenly every communication system in the galaxy began broadcasting a single message, not just to military installations or government facilities, but to every inhabited world, every space station, every ship currently in transit. Humanity was addressing the entire galaxy directly. The message was simple and delivered in the native language of each species. The age of human submission is over. We offered friendship and received betrayal. We showed weakness, and you planned our extermination. Now you will learn what happens when humans stop pretending to be harmless. Across 1,000 worlds, billions of sentient beings looked up at displays showing the impossible sight of human fleets dominating their star systems. The species that they had been told was primitive and defenseless had just demonstrated technological and military capabilities that surpassed their wildest imagination. In the council chamber, Delegate Zixara of the Vextari Collective stood on trembling crystalline legs. "This is barbaric! You're threatening entire civilizations over political disagreements." Marcus almost felt sorry for her. The Vexitari had convinced themselves that their own plans for human genocide were somehow civilized because they had been wrapped in bureaucracy and legal procedure. The concept that their victims might fight back with overwhelming force seemed to genuinely shock them. Admiral Chen's response was measured but implacable. "Delegate Zixara, your own intelligence services recommended the use of biological weapons against human colonies. Your military advisors suggested that human children should be taken as slaves to prevent future resistance. Do not speak to me of barbarism." The evidence was undeniable. Marcus had recorded everything, and now the galaxy was seeing the true depth of the conspiracy against humanity. It had not been a simple political maneuver or a matter of territorial dispute. The galactic powers had planned complete extinction for the human species. Commander Thexkar, who had lost 3/4 of his fleet in the past hour, made one final attempt at intimidation. "You may have superior weapons, but you are still outnumbered 1,000 to 1. The galaxy will never accept human domination." This time, Admiral Chen actually smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. "Commander, you still don't understand what you're facing. You think this is about domination or conquest. It's not. This is about making sure that no species ever again makes the mistake of threatening humanity's existence." She gestured, and the holographic display changed to show new tactical information that made the delegates gasp in collective horror. The human forces they had detected were not the entirety of humanity's military might. They were merely the advanced scouts. Massive space installations were decloaking throughout the galaxy, revealing themselves to be human constructions that had been hidden for years. Artificial worlds that had been dismissed as natural phenomena suddenly showed their true nature as fortress factories capable of producing entire fleets in a matter of days. Even more disturbing were the installations within the home systems of the galactic powers themselves. Hidden bases on asteroids, cloaked satellites around inhabited worlds, and monitoring stations that had been observing their every move for longer than anyone wanted to calculate. "You see," Admiral Chen continued conversationally, "humans have a particular talent for blending in. We're very good at being underestimated. While you were celebrating your technological superiority, we were already living among you, learning from you, and preparing for the day when your true intentions became clear." Marcus felt a moment of professional pride as the scope of humanity's infiltration became apparent. He had not been the only one. For years, humans had been taking positions throughout galactic society. Maintenance workers, clerks, translators, and countless other insignificant roles that had allowed them access to information and locations that would have been impossible to reach through conventional espionage. The quiet, unnoticed humans had been everywhere, watching and learning and planning. They had seen the conspiracy against their species develop from its earliest stages, and they had been preparing humanity's response since the beginning. Chancellor Veltar raised one trembling hand. What? What are your terms? What does humanity require for peace?" "Peace?" Admiral Chen repeated the word as if tasting something bitter. "Chancellor, peace was what we wanted 6 months ago when we applied for council membership. Peace was what we offered when your species began their campaign of sabotage and propaganda. Peace was what we hoped for, even as we detected your fleets moving toward our colonies. She paused, allowing her words to sink in before continuing. You have proven that peace with the current galactic order is impossible. Therefore, that order will change. The terms that followed were not negotiated. They were dictated. The Galactic Council was dissolved, its authority transferred to a new organization with humanity holding permanent veto power over all decisions. Military forces of all species were to be reduced to purely defensive levels, with human observers stationed throughout the galaxy to ensure compliance. Most significantly, the species that had actively participated in planning humanity's genocide would face what Admiral Chen called reconstructive oversight. Their governments would be restructured under human guidance, their military leaders tried for war crimes, and their societies educated about the consequences of attempted genocide. Marcus watched as the delegates struggled to process the magnitude of their defeat. They had gone from planning humanity's destruction to facing the complete transformation of their own civilizations in a matter of hours. "This is outrageous!" Commander Thexkar finally exploded. "The Bruthan people will never submit to human rule." Admiral Chen's expression hardened. "Commander, the Bruthan hegemony planned to enslave human children and use them as entertainment in your gladiatorial arenas. Your scientists developed biological weapons specifically designed to cause maximum suffering in human populations. Your military doctrine called for the complete erasure of human culture and history." She gestured toward Marcus's surveillance footage, which now showed Thexkar himself discussing the most horrific details of the planned human genocide. "The Bruthan people will submit to human oversight, or the Bruthan people will find themselves explaining their actions to whatever deity they believe in. The choice is yours." The threat was clear and utterly without bluff. Humanity had demonstrated both the capability and willingness to utterly destroy any species that threatened them. The galaxy's military forces lay in ruins. Their technology had been revealed as primitive compared to human capabilities, and their every secret had been exposed. As the session continued, Marcus began the process of shutting down his hidden networks. His mission was complete, and it was time to step out of the shadows. The age of human deception was ending, but it had served its purpose perfectly. He secured his equipment and prepared to leave his maintenance closet for the final time. As he gathered his things, he reflected on the journey that had brought him to this moment. 6 months ago, he had been just another human trying to find humanity's place in galactic society. Now, he was the architect of the galaxy's transformation. The door to his sanctuary slid open, and Marcus stepped into the corridor outside. For the first time in months, he walked with his shoulders straight and his head held high. There was no need to hide anymore, no reason to appear weak or harmless. As he made his way toward the council chamber, he passed the same aliens who had mocked him countless times. Now they pressed themselves against the walls as he approached, their earlier dismissiveness replaced by fear and respect. Commander Thexkar, who had nearly knocked him down that morning, now stood frozen in terror as Marcus approached. The human was no longer the cowering janitor who cleaned up after his betters. He moved with the confidence of someone who held the power of life and death over entire civilizations. "Commander," Marcus said politely, his voice carrying easily through the sudden silence, "I believe you have some surrender documents to sign." He walked past the stunned Bruthan and entered the council chamber, where his arrival was greeted with gasps of recognition. The quiet, unnoticed janitor was revealed for what he had always been: humanity's deadliest weapon deployed in plain sight. Marcus took his place beside Admiral Chen's holographic image, no longer hiding behind the facade of insignificance. The galaxy had wanted to see humanity's true nature, and now they would spend the rest of their existence living with the consequences of that desire. "Honored delegates," Marcus said, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had orchestrated the galaxy's transformation. "Let's discuss the future of galactic civilization. I think you'll find humanity's proposals quite reasonable." The delegates looked at the human who had walked among them for months, gathering their secrets and planning their downfall. He had been exactly what they thought he was: quiet, unnoticed, and deadly. They just hadn't understood what those qualities meant when possessed by a species that had mastered the art of war while appearing to know nothing about it. The galaxy would never again make the mistake of underestimating humanity. They had learned too late that the most dangerous enemies were the ones who remained invisible until the moment they chose to strike. Humanity had tried to join the galactic community as friends and equals. When that was rejected, they had shown the galaxy what it meant to have humans as enemies. The age of human mercy was over. The age of human dominance had begun. And it had all started with a quiet, unnoticed janitor whom they had mocked for being exactly what he appeared to be, until the moment he chose to become something else entirely.